Hello everybody, it's Foxy speaking, and welcome to another episode of Foxy's Fun Inspirational Chats. And today I will be your host. And in this episode, this is another episode of mine, David Scott and Sue Vecchio's Croatian holiday. And in this episode, it had been a day since we'd visited the owners of Nyx Potato, and our last day to explore and enjoy our holiday in Croatia before flying back to our homes. So, it was morning, and there was only one more day left before flying back for myself and David to be flying back home to England in the United Kingdom, and also only one more day before Sue Vecchio herself had to fly back to the United States of America, in all truth. So, yes. And so I woke up once the alarm buzzed off because there was only one day left to enjoy the Croatian holiday. And so I got out of bed, got showered up, shaved off the beard with the prominent stubble of the beard that was growing through, combed up my hair once it was conditioned, got dressed, and, fully dressed, put the shoes on, and took my jacket with me, went downstairs to have a nice, delicious breakfast. And once the breakfast was done and got through eating the breakfast, walked to the reception to let them know I was going out for the day. Luckily they were completely fine since it was the hotel, as there were other tourists that come and go all the time from that hotel, and then went outside to one of the Zagreb cathedrals, which was where I was to be meeting Sue Vecchio and David Scott, but this required for me to get public transportation. Likely meant I had to get a bus or two to get there. So I walked to whatever bus stop I could to find whichever bus route would take me to the, sorry, something was a bit wrong. Whichever bus was going to take me to the Zagreb, cathedral, that was. So unfortunately I found the right direct bus from where I was going to the Zagreb cathedral, where I was to be meeting David and Sue. David Scott and Sue Vecchio, that is. The bus arrived. I asked the bus driver where to take me and all that, where I wanted my ticket to. He asked me for the fare, paid the fare, and then he issued out a ticket from the ticket machine. So, once that was done, the bus set off, obviously stopping and starting at various different bus stops with the passengers' demands and needs and all that, as it had to follow it as the bus responsibility and the responsibility of the bus driver. Though the bus route took me through some wonderful sights of Croatia. Absolutely wonderful sights. And certainly was it most interesting whilst on the bus on the way to the Zagreb cathedral sighting that was. So, interesting ride. I even took a video of the bus ride too. Once the bus ride was over, I got out at the bus stop and didn't have too far to walk. So I got out the bus, and there before my very eyes I saw the Zagreb cathedral. And so I began to walk my way to the Zagreb cathedral after I shot a video of the bus leaving the bus stop. And so I was walking steadily and carefully, and not too far from the Zagreb cathedral, I saw Sue Vecchio and David Scott already waiting for me. "Sue, David," I said as I shouted and said, waving to them. "Foxy," Sue said. And then she walked over and we greeted each other with a nice friendly hug. And then David came over saying, "Hello, Beatty, hello, Foxy," and shaking hands. "How are you? Only one more day left of our Croatian holiday, David and Sue." Yeah, David said. "Only one more day left and then back home to England, Magnificent Motors, with myself and possibly Dave Bryan and Peter Mackett," David said. "Oh, yes, we've got that," I said. And so, and one more day left and I've got to go back home to my kitty, Harriet, Sue said. "Yes, I know. Only one more day left of our holiday, and before long we've got to go back home the next day," I said. And so, because we only had one more day left of our holiday, we decided to see whatever possible we could inside the Zagreb Cathedral. We went inside the ancient, old-fashioned looking Zagreb Cathedral, and goodness, was it picturesque inside. It was definitely looking at the interesting resemblance of ancient history when looking inside it. It was very quiet and peaceful, as there wasn't anything to be going on there. But when looking inside, it was absolutely beautiful. Beautiful architectural designs and beautiful glass windows with the colours on it and all that, as you would see in a lot of old-fashioned cathedrals. We decided to take some videos and photographs of the Zagreb Cathedral. It was certainly most interesting. And so we decided to spend a little bit of time and we decided to explore everything possible we could inside the Zagreb Cathedral itself. After about half an hour or so exploring everything and all the sights of the Zagreb Cathedral, myself, David Scott and Sue Vecchio decided to leave the Zagreb Cathedral and explore other interesting parts of the Zagreb city. But first we had to go to the bus stop because we were going to get a bus to an interesting place in Zagreb and see what else there was to explore in the very big, interesting Zagreb city. And so we got the bus, and before long the bus took us to another interesting place in the Zagreb city, so much to the fascination of myself, David Scott and Sue Vecchio. And obviously this was some time after exploring the Zagreb Cathedral, and now we're exploring other various parts of other Zagreb cities and all the rest of it, much to our interest and fascination, if one dare might point out. And so, before long, we got to the proceedings of exploring the other parts of the Zagreb city. It was certainly most interesting, and we definitely enjoyed ourselves when exploring it all. We decided to take some videos as well. Myself, David Scott and Sue Vecchio taking videos of the other parts of the Zagreb city we were exploring. But obviously we were going to not do it for far too long, of course, certainly not, but we were going to do it for a reasonable period of time and then go to another interesting part of the Zagreb city before going out for one last meal in Zagreb in Croatia, before flying back home to our native home countries for the very next day, that was. After about a good 1.5 to 2 hours of exploring the other various parts of Zagreb city in Croatia, we decided to go to another part of the Zagreb, of the capital city of Zagreb in Croatia. And there, when we were in the other part was cities and estates, but this part, the next proceedings of the parts exploring it, was seeing lots of tram lines and all that in this part of Zagreb, and we decided to take lots of videos of the trams, whatever trams we could see and all that. Both Sue, myself and David Scott found this greatly fascinating and took as many videos as we possibly could of it all. Indeed we did. And after spending about 2 or 3 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, something like that, not just taking videos of these Zagreb trams, but also other Zagreb public transportation, particularly of the buses, we got on the bus and got into the near to the Zagreb Central Railway Station. We were not going to get a train there, but we knew there were some nice, interesting restaurants that were fairly nearby to it. So we decided to go to 1 or 2 of them. And so we got out of the bus, and then we decided to go to a nice, interesting restaurant, as evening had fallen. And so we walked inside the restaurant, and fortunately there were some English-speaking staff there, since we could not speak the Croatian language. And so we asked the waiter if there was a table spare for the 3 of us. Fortunately there were, even though the restaurant was busy, there was fortunately a table for 3. And so we walked over to our table, and once we got to our table, we began the proceedings of ordering our foods. And so we began ordering everything to the waiter, who fortunately spoke English quite luckily, and whilst we were waiting for our starters, we were sharing some of our fond and reminiscent memories of our Zagreb holiday. Certainly were our stories sometimes funny, sometimes greatly fascinating and amusing, and certainly were they moving and interesting, our stories of our Zagreb holiday in Croatia. But whilst our chats continued, our starters arrived, and so we had our starters first, and once we had our batch of starters, we also got a bottle of red wine to share amongst the 3 of us. And so we had our starters. Once we got through eating our starters, it was Sue Vecchio who poured the red wine into our wine glasses. And so we got raising our wine glasses ready. We were like, cheers, and to our final day in Croatia before going back to our home countries, and cheers, and then we clinked our glasses. Thank you, Foxy and David, for a wonderful Croatian holiday, Sue said. This holiday means a lot to me, and it shows you just how wonderful and really good friends you 2 have been to me. Well, we very much appreciate you, Sue, and we thank your kindness of courteous sincerity. I said, yeah, thank you, Sue, lovely. David said, we enjoyed our holiday with you, and we look forward to seeing you when you come over to England, as David said. And so, after raising and tapping our wine glasses together as we clinked them and said cheers, we proceeded to drink our red wine. After getting through a glass or 2 of red wine, our main course meals arrived. We steadily and carefully ate through our large main course meals and began to have, and also sipped and drank our red wine to go with it. Before long it was all finished, and then we still had a little more red wine to go, but only 1 more for 1 more glass, and we decided to have a dessert with our last batch of red wine, as we were only going to have 1 bottle of red wine amongst the 3 of us. And before long our desserts arrived, and Sue poured the last of the red wine bottle in it before it was empty. The red wine bottle was empty. We tapped our glasses and drank our red wine, and then we ate our desserts. And so we finished our desserts and the last of the red wine we had and asked for, and once everything was finished we asked for the bill. And so the bill was subsequently paid, this time in the hands of David Scott, never mind, as he wanted to pay for the meal on our last day of our Croatian holiday. And once the bill was paid, we respectfully said our goodbyes and left the restaurant to go back to where we were staying in our hotels and youth hostels. So we got our taxi. The taxi first dropped off me to the hotel I was staying in Zagreb in Croatia, and obviously the taxi cab vehicle was to continue to drop off David Scott and Sue Vecchio to where they were staying for their Zagreb holidays. There I entered the hotel after saying my goodbyes to Sue and David, and walked into the hotel room I was sleeping in, and went onto my computer to watch some YouTube and all that, but also felt a little bit emotional, but very happy. The emotional part, why? It was because it was the last day of the Croatian holiday, because the next day I was to be flying back home to England. But I was very happy because I had such a full and wonderful holiday in Zagreb in Croatia with David. We had such a full holiday in Croatia with David Scott and Sue Vecchio. A holiday with my best friend and my very good friend. That was the thing that made me the happiest most of all, and what really mattered and counted to me was that it was a fantastic and brilliant holiday. And so after watching a little bit of YouTube and getting some videos uploaded, I got organised and packed all my stuff ready to take into the taxi to the airport for the next day. And once that was all done, I decided to get a reasonably early night as I was to be leaving very, very early. And then I fell peacefully and happily to sleep, feeling extremely happy. I had such a wonderful holiday over in Croatia, mainly staying in Zagreb in Croatia. The end. Well, thanks everybody indeed for watching this video. I know, as I said before, it did not happen in real life, this holiday, but it was based on a dream I had, as I said before. And there will be another part, but the next part of the story is going to be the very final installment part, just to say, of the Croatian holiday story, just to say. It will mark as the final part of the story, the next one, which is the final one. Thanks everybody indeed for watching, and I shall certainly see you in the very next video. Ta-ta, another time. From Foxy. Yeah.